All right, so shalom, shalom. I want to start off by saying Barakathon, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah Bahashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole field. Let's start with the 144,000. Shalom. All right, so, I thought this lesson would be you can't deny history, right? And this lesson comes through inspiration of Yahweh Shah through the Spirit, right? I said this lesson to the brothers a while ago because I seen Ed Apostle Hart. He did a response lesson to it, and I had ended up going and watching the lesson that the brother did, and he was bringing out, how America is Ashereth, right? And and when you go into it, when you go into it, understand it. You go into the history. And I got a lot of things in my notes I want to read as well. And I got some precepts I'm going to break out, backing it up. The brother got a good matter of fact, real fast. Just go to it for edification's sake, just so brothers can see the video, right? It is right here, right? See, I'm almost done.
Let me go ahead.
All right, 6 minutes left, right? Where it says denial of America being Ashereth is futile, right? GMS, Maccabees, yeah, right? You see the page, right? So that's a good lesson, to go into, right? Because, we all have spirit. We all have we all have gifts of the spirit, many brothers talk about it a lot, but one of Slacky for that, sitting in the car. But one of my gifts is Slacky. One of the gifts through the spirit is history, because I love going into the history of our nation and our people, because once again, you can't deny history, right? They Esau try their best to hide it, but I want to fact, that's a precept that the brother brought out. That's what I'm gonna bring out in Second Esdras. And then, with Lord willing, we'll get into it, right? The Second Esdras 26, 27, and 28 says, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched," right? You know how you say, "I quenched my thirst." I mean, you got rid of your thirst. So we're gonna get the evil and deceit is gonna be get rid of, right? It's gonna be done away with, right? It says, "For as for faith, it shall flourish; corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which has been so long without fruit, shall be declared," because the truth has been hidden, right? The truth has been hidden for so long, but now the Spirit of Habashim Shah is upon us, and it's gathering their elect, and now the truth is going out, right? One of the processes going to happen is Esau being exposed. Now they've been exposed for everything, right? And so, Lord willing, let's get into it, right? You can't deny history, right? So this is going into, really it's going into, how we was over here first, right? How we was over here first, the Northern Kingdom, right? Just showing you how, America's Ashereth, and the scriptures tell you that, right? Because when you understand, right, I got it right here in notes, and this was a lot of things I searched up AI, I took it and put it in my notes as well. So first, this Christopher Columbus' real name is Cristobal Colon, right? He came to the Americas with 5 Hebrew interpreters, right? He was not Italian, right, or Israelite, right? And like the brother was saying, whatnot, right? You have some, from what there's been no proof to show he was Israelite, this is one of the interpreters he came with, Luis de Torres, was the man. He spoke Hebrew, right? But the point I want to get to was right here, right? So yes, North African Moors ruled in Spain and Portugal, a period known as Al and Duelis, right? And Moors are just Israelites who practice Islam, right? They ruled in Spain and Portugal. And the brother on the video, he's showing factual evidence of how they rule and things and whatnot, right? Showing statues, showing things as such, right? And so later on in the lesson, he showed a picture, like it's like a history picture of like you have black rulers at the top of a kingdom, a king and a princess, right? King or queen, however you want to put it, right? And you have Esau, Edom, right? They're coming down and they're like attacking. They're attacking them, right? And that's when they're coming out of those caves, they're coming out of those woods or whatnot, right? And when you understand it, that's them. Esau was bound for 1,000 years, right? And they was under Jake rule for so long, right? Esau was bound for so long, right? And me see. Revelation 20, right? And that was bound for so long, right? And you gotta know Europe was that bottomless pit, right? Which is in Asia, right? They try to say it ain't, but which is in Asia, right? That bottomless pit, right? When you understand it, they didn't have the riches. They didn't have the riches. They didn't have the resources, right? They didn't have none of those things. So they had to come over to the Americas to get them. That's why they came over with the corn, the gold, things there. So he knew the Israelites was over here. Why he came with those Hebrew interpreters, right? So I'm gonna read this two precepts real fast. And I saw an angel, right? I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and the great chain in his hand, right? And that chain is us, right? I got it right here in my notes, right? That chain represents captivity, also represents Jake, right? Cause we had rulership. We was ruling over. We had rulership over them for so long, right? We was ruling, right? Which they try to say is more, but the Moors is just Israelites who practice Islam, right? And it says that he laid hold on a dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan by him 1,000 years. That's just different names, different titles of Esau Edom. The devil, Satan, that serpent, right? And they was bound for 1,000 years. That's when they, them caves, right? Them caves, them woods, right? Which their true nature, which they truly are. Until the Most High allowed them to come back to rulership. Let's go to Job chapter 5, right? Real fast. Job chapter 5 and start at verse 12. It said, he disappointed the devices of the crafty, so their hands cannot perform their enterprise. And they needed a place to establish, right? It's like, I'm gonna cut this car on so I can cut the AC on real fast like it. But they needed a place to establish this, I don't have it so high up. It's like, but they needed a place to establish this enterprise, right? And once again, that bottomless pit, Europe, it ain't have nothing, man. So they had to come up, they had to find riches, things as such, to even get over here. And even another point is, he was showing the video how, around that time, they was basically like forcing people, when Christopher Columbus left, right, they was forcing people to, they was forcing people to leave. They was forcing people to leave around that time. If you wasn't, it was forcing Christian people, and if you wasn't, you get kicked out. And that's around the time Christopher Columbus left as well. That's another point in history you can go watch from the brother. But the point I'm really going into is how they came over here, right, to perform their enterprise. When Esau come back into power, right, through that Renaissance, right, they needed a place to establish it. They needed a place to get it going, right? And we know that over here, the the land's very fertile. It had gold, spices. You had corn. They had those things. Corn. They had those things, right? So he needed to come over here to get that, right? Well, leading up to that, right? The point on Brandon Rest why I taught this lesson is you can't deny history, is because when you truly understand, right, the natives was already over here in Ashford, and the scriptures tell you that, right? Because, right, so let's go to 2 Kings, right, 17. Yeah, 2 Kings 17, right? So it says, in the 12th year of Oz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Eli, to reign in Samaria over 9 years. And Samaria was the capital city of the northern kingdom, right? I got it right here, right? Well, let's go into the king. Slacky, I wanted to go into, bear with me. Let me see. Here it is. Right? Yeah, Samaria was the capital city of the northern kingdom, which is in Israel, right? Right? And he says, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. So he doing evil, right? He doing evil works. So what happens when you do evil works? Y'all gonna bring that judgment upon you. What happened to us every time? We always had our own land, our own rule. We was kings, princes, and princesses, but we always went against the rule, the knowledge of Yahweh Shah. We always turned our face against them. So he always led us to captivity, right? Always led us to captivity, right? It says, and against him came up Shalmaneser, right, king of Assyria, and Hosea became his servant and gave him presents, right? And I want to, let's see, I want to jump down to verse 6, right? So why I asked y'all down to verse 5, right? It said, then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it and seized it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea the king, in the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried away Israel into Assyria and placed them in Halah in a harbor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes, right? So the northern kingdom, right, for them going against Yahweh Shah was led away captive by the Assyrians, right? It says, for so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord Yahweh, their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had fear of the powers, right? And so the reason I'm reading this is because I gave a little insight on, of how, of Christopher Columbus and whatnot, Jake and rulership over there, and whatnot. Then you have Esau going against them, to knock Jake off, right? To knock Jake off out of rulership. Esau, they start coming back in rulership, right? And they need to establish that enterprise. They need to establish that they need to establish a place, because once again, Europe was that bottomless pit. It ain't have none. That's why Revelation 20. Europe ain't have none. So they need the riches. They need the things as such, right? So let's continue to read on. It says, have fear of the gods and walk in the statues of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from them before the children of Israel and the kings of Israel, which they had made, right? And this is going into, how Israel was going against Yahweh Shah, serving other idols, serving other gods and whatnot. So he calls, right? Let's jump down, right? Let's see. All right, I'll jump down verse 13. It says, yet the Lord Yahweh testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn ye from your evil ways, keep my commandments and my statutes according to the law which I command your fathers, which I sent to you by my prophets. It's like what I sent to you by my servants, the prophets, right? Notwithstanding, they would not hear but harden their neck. It's not scripture that say, there'll be a stiff neck, but in their captivity they shall remember. That's how today we're coming back to the remembrance. This is not the understanding right here, like history. So the true history is being brought back to our remembrance. It's being brought back into us, right? We've been able to understand. We've been able to remember it. So now we're able to really understand who we are. Now we're able to really understand that, we understand it, through the spirit of Yahweh Shah, but we prove it, right? Because they can't deny history. Right, and they try their best to hide history, do all these things, try to hide who they really are. Right, that's why they start calling themselves white people. Right, they try to hide from them being Esau, Edom. Right, they curse the wicked. They try their best to hide that, but they can't. Right, it says, notwithstanding, they will not hear, but harden their necks, like to the neck of their fathers, that did not believe in the Lord their power, and rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimony which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them that they should not do like them. And that's why you understand how they do that. He gave us laws and commandments. He ain't dealt with no other nation, right? And this even the point, even just speak on it. I did respond to it yesterday, but even if Jake talking about I guess the group Genesis talking about that salvation is for other nations, no, because the Most High only gave the laws and commandments to the nation of Israel. Right, he haven't dealt with any other nation, right? He gave us laws and commandments so we wouldn't be like these other people, right? How do you think they're going to be saved? What do you mean? They don't even make sense. But anyways, right? So I read verse 16. I'm jumping down again. It says, and they left all the commandments of the Lord their power and made them molten images, even to calves, and made it grow. And that goes into with Jeroboam, right? Let's see. I think it mentions his name in here. Yeah, Jeroboam, right? Jeroboam, Rehoboam, the king of Solomon, King Solomon's son, right? And Jeroboam, the king of the northern kingdom, when the Most High rent the tribes from Israel, he gave him 10 tribes, that's the northern kingdom. They split, because Jeroboam he didn't want the northern kingdom going into Israel, going into Jerusalem, following the holidays, doing that thing. So he felt like they was gonna turn against him. Right, and they're gonna try to kill him because, Solomon was trying to get at him, right? So the northern kingdom and southern kingdom split, right? Then Jeroboam, he made the 2 golden calves, for them to go worship. You read about it in First Kings, right? Chapter 11 and 12, he made a golden calf that people can worship or whatnot, right? So boom. Now, let's jump down to verse, Slack it. I'll just keep reading now. I really could do the Second Kings whole breakdown, but let's continue reading now, right? Where we was at? Yeah, right. So verse 16 again. They left all the commandments of the Lord their power, right, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove and worship all the host of heaven and served Baal. They caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire and used divination and enchantments and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh to provoke him to anger. Therefore the Lord was angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. Therefore there was none left but the tribe of Judah only. And that's that's the southern kingdom, which were in Jerusalem. And Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel. That's why you got to understand. The southern kingdom was took down by the Romans, and the northern kingdom was took down by Assyrians, right? And when you understand it, the southern kingdom, we was scattered, fled all throughout Africa or whatnot, which later, was later led us to captivity, being brought over here to the Americas through captivity. But the northern kingdom was already here, right? The northern kingdom was already here, right? It says the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them to the hand of spoilers, right? The Syrians took over the northern kingdom, right? And the Romans came and invaded Jerusalem until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was Ephraimite, king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord and made them a great sin. What made them sin a great sin, which was the 2 golden calves, right? For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did, and depart not from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight. And he said, and as he had said by all his servants the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, from Cutha, from Ava, from Hamath, from Severum, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. They possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. That's why in Matthew 10, right, verse 5 and 6, when how should I say, going to Samaria, not into the ways of Samaria, but to the lost of the house of Israel. Because you had Israelites dwelling amongst all these people that was there. He brought a lot of other tribes. It's like he brought a lot of other nations into the land, which eventually pushed all the Israelites out, right? So, and another point real fast. This is the point also proven right here that lady that was at the well, she wasn't an Israelite, because you had, so in verse 25 it talks about how, they didn't know the laws and commandments of the Lord. So they went and the Most High sent lions to maul them, right? So they went and got a priest to come into the land, to teach them the laws, commandments, to teach them the ways of Yahweh Shah. And that's what they, they was faking, and a lot of them was, think about it. It teaching them that, and then they have children, and they being raised up in the ways as if they are the Israelites. They've been raised up in those ways. They're not Israelites, but they're raised up in those ways, right? That's why in John 4 she said, our forefathers Jacob, whatnot, because they were raised up in those ways, but they're not. She was not an Israelite. She's not of that bloodline, right? It's a stone blocker to the wicked, but it's planted to the holy. She's not of that bloodline, right? So, boom. So now let's go here, right? Well, we ain't gonna make this long. We're gonna touch on a few points, right? Just the point, if you can't deny history, man, you can't deny none of it, right? Esau being bound, need that enterprise, right? But the point of all of it is, how they traveled over here. The point I'm proving is that they knew that the natives was over here, right? And the point the brother proved, bringing out how America is Ashereth, man. America was called Ashereth, right? As the scripture tells us. Let's go to 2 Ezra 13. Let's start at verse 40, right? It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, which we read about, the one who did evil in the sight of the Lord, the king who Solomon sought, right, who brought all those people into Samaria. The king of Assyria led away captive and carried them over the waters till they came into another land. But they took counsel among themselves, and they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth to a further country where never mankind dwelt. What is that, right? What is that further country never mankind dwelt? They know that, right? They know that it's talking about the so-called America, Babylon, right? Which was called Ashereth, right? He said that they might keep their their statues, but they never kept in their own land. So they saying like, look, we're gonna lead these people over here, you know, and it caused us to go into captivity, right? So we're gonna go into our own homeland and we're gonna follow the laws of ways of Yahweh when we get over there, right? But you see how they was living when they got over here though. You see the way they was living, right? It says, and they enter into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over, right? And for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half in that same region called Ashereth, right? So I just showing you that what the northern kingdom came over here to Ashereth, right? The northern kingdom came over here to Ashereth. They was over here first, right? You know, and it's all prophecy. You can't now here's it's all prophecy as well to see how both the tribes got over here, right? How all the tribes got over here to the Americas. Well, this is where mainly most of, you know, the Israelites are at, right? Where deliverance is going to be. The Most I say I will come to Egypt again on clouds. The Egypt is referring to bondage, right? He's going to come into Egypt again and deliver us from this bondage that we're in, right? He said then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall say, the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace, right? But those that be left behind of thy people, are they that are found within my borders? Now when he destroyed the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain, right? But the point is how they came over here to Ashereth. They came over here to Ashereth, to a place where never mankind dwelt, which was the Americas, right? And this is why Esau Edom is going to be punished. That's why Esau Edom is going to be, you know, destroyed, right? For the things that they've done into the nation of Israel, right? It's why Yahweh is going to bring complete judgment upon them, man, right? Because they knew that Israelites over here. I just showed you in notes how, you know, and these are all facts that the brothers was bringing out. He's showing you, proving it through books. Now there was one book. The book was costing about $500. You know, they try to charge high for the book because they don't want people to get these books because it's going to expose their ways, expose you know, the real truth. But he came with Hebrew interpreters, man. They came over here tricking, deceiving the people. They brought those diseases and all that over here, right? They did a lot of things, man, right? You know, and they came over here. Why? You got to think about the gold rush, right? You got to think about the spices. They trying to trade all the spices and whatnot because they came from that bottomless pit. They came from nothing. They came from shit. So they had to find a way to establish their enterprise with them coming back into power, right? So, quick precept I want to close with, Lord willing, right? Like I say, man, you can't deny history, man. You can't go against it, right? This is Book of Sirach 10 and 8, right? It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, right? And we're gonna destroy this kingdom. We're gonna destroy Babylon. It's gonna be destroyed and done away with. Israel, we're gonna destroy that, but we're gonna build it back up to the kingdom of Yahweh Shah. Because those riches got by deceit, the lying, the killing, the stealing, the rape, all those things that Esau Edom done, right? You know, it's gonna be a recompense for that, right? The deceiving, the foolishness. Because the first thing when that 1,000 years came up, the first thing Esau Edom did was what, right? Went out deceiving the people, and they deceived people so much. Eventually, everybody just fell in line with it. They just fell in love with it, right? Stockholm syndrome. Right, so then now you got Jake. Now you got Jake who you know. Now you got Jake who just so lost, right? Jake so lost that when you tell them things like this, or they try to go to Google and search it up, things that such. Like if I search it right now, was America called Ashereth? Google ain't gonna say it's called Ashereth, man. Right? Let's see. I searched it on my other phone, right? I said, no, America. I said, was America called Ashereth? It said, no, it's AI overview. No, America was not called Ashereth. However, Christopher Columbus believed it was the land of Ashereth, mentioned in the biblical text, as the home of the lost 10 tribes. The term Ashereth is not a historical name for America, but from Second Esdras, part of the Apocrypha, for a mythical land where the 10 tribes went after being taken into captivity, right? So they try their best to try to make it a confusion, right? You know, they try to make it a confusion, try to make it confusing, right? But this is where the you know, the northern kingdom, the northern tribes came to, man, right? Over here to America, right? And Esau Edom came over here, tricking, deceiving, right? You know, but it was all part of that enterprise they needed to build. Once again, they knew what they was doing, man. You know, they knew what they was doing. I wish I would have screenshot the fact. It's like, we can go to it right here. Well, let's go to it right quick. I want to show you this just a quick point. It's like it for the notification.
Book. Spears.
Right here. This is the point right here.
Attacking a black century. Okay.
It's like the notification.
13th century piece of art showing you the wild men, white men with sticks and clubs, primitive spears, attacking a black castle full of black royalty, Moors, Israelites. You can, to prove it, you can see their garments. They'll wear the same garments that we wear on the streets when we teach, long down to the ankles with the border of blue. All right, with the fringes on them. You can clearly see it. This is from the 15th century, 14th century. All right, and there's a king and queen in the window of that castle. Okay, fighting off these primitive wild men that were coming down out of the caves and out of the woods. Okay, those are the Edomites. The Edomites were not, the so-called white man was not in rulership during the Dark Ages. So all of your television shows, The Last Kingdom, Vikings, you know, those are all lies when it comes to the aesthetics of the people. All right. The so-called white man came into power again when this happened in 1492. And Cristobal Colon.
Understand it? We read Revelation 20, man. It being bound, it was bound for those 1,000 years. They was bound, right? It was under Jake rule, right? You know, but it's all prophecy. You know, they came back. Most allowed them to come back to rulership. You know, and once again, that's why we read Job 5:12. They need to establish their enterprise. And one more little piece I want to let you see real fast around about here.
Fusion, because Orthodox.
Slacky, bear with me.
Christian religiosity was still there beneath the surface. Indeed, he may consider Manasseh to be the last outstanding representative of the quasi-religion geographic.
I had to find it, but Lord willing, right? Let me find it real fast. But the point I want you to see is how, you know, in this historical thing is mentioned about Ashereth in 2nd Esdras, right? And let's see, let me go to the description. Let's see what the transcript meant to say. But it's mentioned about Ashereth in the you know, about 2nd Esdras, man, right? Okay, here it is. Here it is.
Wasn't looking for India. He was looking for Ashereth. All right. Here is because he knew that the Israelites came there, and he knew that it was a land full of corn and wine and lots of gold, and that's why they came. All right. On page 96, it says, "To what race did these aboriginals?"
That goes into that, you know, that bottomless pit, man, because they coming out of Europe, which is really in Asia, right? And that's that bottomless pit, man, right? Okay, here it is. Here it is. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, here it is. Here it is right here, right? Oh, here it is, right?
And matter of fact, it says, "The land beyond the great river, far from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of restoration, according to 2nd Esdras," well, 4th Esdras, because Ezra and Esdras, you know, when you read the book of Ezra, Esdras is just the Latin way or Greek way of saying Ezra. All right. Because it's a continuation. You read it, it does continue the stories and the precepts. So it also proves that the Apocryphal has always been a part of the Bible. right? They removed it because they didn't want this evidence presented. This is one of the main reasons why the Apocrypha was removed from the Bible, because it identified the Edomites and it identified the natives as Israelites. And now your Christians will have to explain your massacring and stealing of the land while claiming to be following JC, while you were murdering off his people and stealing their land. So you would have had to justify and explain that. All right. Well, you got a woman, you know, you can see the screen.
But you see the point, man. You know, you can't deny that history, man, and understand that how even the northern tribes got over here. That's why I went down into, you know, 2 Kings and 2 Ezra, man, because that's the northern tribes was already over here, man. When they came over, they knew they was coming over here for, right? Going back to Revelation 20, man, that bondage pit, right? Because after they was bound for those 1,000 years, right, they came out, and the first thing they did, right, was, you know, let me see. Revelations 27, right? It says, when those 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations, which are the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, which is Gog is Russia, Magog is the land, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea, right? But you gotta understand, the first thing they did when they came out of it was start deceiving the nations, start deceiving the people, man. That's the first thing they did since they came out, man. Straight deceiving the nation, deceiving the people, man. Right? You see it, man. Right? That's the first thing they did, right? Like the brother said, you know, claiming the works of JC, things that says, but you got to explain that. You got to, you know, they hide this truth because history, you know, history gonna make them have to explain all that, the murder and the stealing, the, you know, the rich got by the sea. They're gonna have to explain all that. They try their best to hide it, but they can't, because once again, part of prophecy in these last days, Esau will be exposed, man. The truth is gonna be brought out, man. Right? You can't go against it. Right? You can't go against it, man. You can try your best. You can try your best to try to, you know, or whatnot. But hey, you know, at the end of the day, you know, Spirit of Habashah is going to go out to the prophets, go out to those sincere sincere righteous men of Habashah, and they're going to expose Esau Edom in these last days, man. Matter of fact, let's go to it. Quick precept before we close it out. Book of Jeremiah 49, right? In verse 10 it said, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret place. Secret place is what? America, right? Over here, his land, right? He shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbor, and he is not, man. So he ain't gonna be able to hide himself. He's exposed, man. Right? Most High is exposed. His secret place, all of it. He exposed. He's being made bare, man. So all that line thing, they can't deny history, man. They can't go against it, right? So with that being said, you know, Lord willing, right? Whole lesson was edifying and exalting, right? And I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom.